Coming to you live.
Welcome to another episode of That Mortgage Show. It's August 23rd. A lot going on as always, Al. It's always a lot going on. Let's dig into it. What you got?
Well, we're prepared. I'll tell you that much. A lot of exciting stuff in the news that we're going to jump into. Everybody knows about rates. There's some exciting things there. Sun's shining. We're creeping into fall. Weather's getting a little bit colder, a little bit cooler. It's just a good time to be alive. Really good time to be alive.
Maybe you crack the windows open. If I do that in Florida, I crack a window open. There's like a mosquito the size of your head's going to fly in and land on your – and they don't even come over and bite you. They like fly in and they'll just sit on like the foot of your bed and look at you for a while. It's
a mind game with the bugs.
Yeah, it's a total mind game. I mean, there's spiders that are fast, but they choose to just move slow just to freak you out.
Surrounded by death constantly. You're surrounded by death.
Yeah, a lot of animals that have skin. There's stuff in the woods that doesn't have fur. There's not a lot of fur going on down there. A lot of animals walking around with no fur.
Which is terrifying.
Weird.
You ever see one of those cats that don't have fur on it, like Mr. Bigglesworth? It's horrible. Nobody wants that.
All right, so let's not derail this. We did failing to prepare is preparing to fail. So I have one thing prepared, and I just want to be clear before I show you this. We buy leads. We do the Instagram stuff and YouTube stuff to generate leads. So people show up in our CRM as leads. People with a need. They clicked, submitted with a need. And our outbound outreach is, hey, how you doing? What's going on? We'd love to help you with the mortgage. What can we do for you? And sometimes that leads to voicemails like this. I'm going to play. All right, you ready?
I cannot wait for this.
Hey, I'm turning you into the Federal Trade Commission, you rat bastard. Yeah, I got your phone number, and then I'll let the feds get your ass. Hey, I'm turning you into the Federal Trade Commission, you rat bastard. Yeah, hey, I got your phone number.
Rat bastard.
The feds are coming for my ass. And you know what? That might not even be me calling. Sometimes when people call, my number's tied to it and it comes back to me. It might not even have been me. But I'm the rat bastard. How'd she know?
I love the fact that there's probably two people that are going to call you a rat bastard, right? Nobody's going to do that necessarily to your face. But I would call you a rat bastard in some situations just because we've been friends for 25 years. And then this lady, somebody that you cold call, right, is going to call you a rat bastard. Outside of that, not too many opportunities. And the worst part is you could be sitting there and just having a tough day, right? You're just having one, right? Not a lot of things going right. Didn't leave the house right. Didn't wake up right. Whatever. And you're just looking for some sort of inspiration, motivation. And then you just, ding, you get a voicemail and you're like, yes, it's going to be a good deal or something. It's going to be a hot lead, and you get rat bastard.
I'll tell you what, I've been, doing this for long time. And I try to tell myself I have thick skin, but it gets to me sometimes. And that one got to me yesterday. I was upset. Quickly turn it around. But it's I'm calling you because you expressed a need, and I'm going to be polite and nice. And you don't know me, and I'm a rat bastard.
Rat bastard. Now you got to worry about the feds crawling up your ass with a microscope.
I know. The last thing I need is the feds. Jeez. I know just how to get them off my tail, though.
Don't start. Don't start.
All right, let's get into the first segment. What's your rate, Al?
What's your rate?
Biggest news from this week. We have to talk about the jobs report, or the revisions made to the jobs report. So I'm going to do a screen share, and we will, talk a little bit about what you can share with us, what you think about it, about the revisions.
Yeah.
So let's see here. All right, very good. Can you see?
I got you.
All right, so we've got U.S. added 818,000 fewer jobs than thought. Adding concerns to the economy. So U.S. job gains over the 12 months ending in March were revised downward Wednesday by 818,000, a significant revision that adds to recent concerns that the economy has been slowing.
Right.
Al, initial thoughts on that?
Well, we've just been getting bombarded with news. The economy's great. Economy's great. Economy's as best it's ever been. Economy's great. And now you're seeing things like this, right? The revision that we've been bamboozled or lied to. It's a little frustrating. And now you see the economy, and it also alludes to the fact that the Fed might have cut rates sooner, right? If this information was a little bit more accurate.
They might have. That's a good point. They might have cut rates sooner, and perhaps if the reason that they were keeping rates up was because the economy was doing okay or good or great.
Great,
and
booming.
We don't need to cut rates because everyone's doing great. Well,
right.
It's not like they could have cut it for us so we could have a little success in our business. It's like they cut rates because the economy needs it. So they didn't do something that potentially should have been done because of false data.
For a positive impact on the economy, right? And because of inaccurate information, right? And not just like, it was a little off, right? We're not talking about 100,000, 200,000, which is, what people kind of expected for the revision. 800, almost 1 million was at the farthest high end that anybody would have anticipated. So, yeah, I mean, they could have made more educated, accurate decisions in the Fed meetings about the rate cuts sooner had they known this information, and could have helped out Al and Ab too, right? So not for us, but help out your guys, right?
Yeah. And this comes just weeks before the already heavily anticipated September Fed meeting. September, 18th, I think, is the big day where they're going to meet and talk about cutting rates. I mean, it's just it's a lot to take in. But I don't know, what effect do you think this revision is going to have on maybe what's going on right now and their decision on the 18th?
Well, I think that this just moves the needle farther. It was always a lot of uncertainty around let's just push it off a couple months and see, and let's just push it off a couple months and see. And now I think there's going to be a lot more urgency that hey, we need to do something. It's not as good as we thought that it was, right? So I think it's at the very least, it's just going to create a lot of urgency that the Fed needs to make a move quickly, right? They alluded to September, and now I don't think there's a shadow of a doubt. So.
Right. And earlier in the week when this broke, when this revised report came out, the Treasury bond, the 10-year that we always talk about, that did fall. It was pushing back up toward 4. Rates were ticking up again. And but when this news came out, it did fall pretty sharply, down from about 3.9, high 3.9s to it touched 3.7, 3.8.
Yeah.
So
which rates reacted to, right? So rates drop came down a little bit with that.
Right. And Al, Jerome Powell spoke this morning there's a Jackson Hole. If you're in the business, you're going to hear about the Jackson Hole. They all go there once a year, and they just sit in basically a surgical room. Everything's metal, and they have just big surgery lights, and they just sit there and they plot the future of the economy. And
everybody's kind of hunched over like this and doing this.
They're stroking cats and stuff
with no fur, by the way.
Their cats don't have fur.
Definitely not fur.
Federal Reserve Jerome Powell, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell did speak this morning, and you got a tidbit or a quote?
Yeah. He said, this is what he says. He says, the time has come for policy to adjust, right? The direction of travel is clear, end quote. So I think the time has come. Right.
So he's got his coffee.
There's some booze in that cup. Let's be honest. Now that economic data came out, and he's like, we should have done it sooner.
Yeah, I don't know. So here's the article. You can go look at it and read it if you'd like, but it does seem like, I mean, shoot, the time has come for policy to adjust. You said it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So the direction of travel is clear. Those are two big ones. We'll see what happens. I think now it's going to be a matter of how much they cut by rather than if they cut. So we'll see. And I mean, shoot, we gotta have small victories with what rates have been. So the fact that he came out and said it, it's exactly what we were hoping he would say. He didn't come out and oh, we'll see. He's being pretty definitive. So
it's definitive now. Yeah, which is great. Which is exactly what we wanted to hear. Just give us some clear direction, right? Instead of beating around the bush, tiptoeing.
Right. So all right. I didn't hit record on my audio.
We didn't get any of that? Oh, God. We were on fire.
Well, I'm sure that my computer picked it up.
We're still on fire.
We're going to wrap this segment up. This is live TV, folks. It's what the kids want.
This is what happens on live TV. There's ups, there's downs, right?
Yep. We're going to wrap up that what's your rate. We got a lot going on, so we're going to move on to the next segment. So we're going to wrap up what's your rate with some data points that affect mortgage rates, some of the big ticket items. So we got the Fed funds rate currently sitting at 5.25, between 5.25 and 5.5. That's a target rate, so it's always going to be a range. The unemployment rate is currently 4.3%. The Fed's preferred inflation indicator, personal consumption expenditure, is 2.6%. And lastly, our beloved 10-year Treasury bond is right now live check-in, live look, 3.805. So you can see the volatility over the last couple of days, up and down, up and down, up and down.
Up and down.
There's always a ceiling and a floor, and always tweeters between it. The ceiling and floor was 3.9 to 4 and 4.8 to 4.9. We want to see it get down to 3.6 to 3.7. 3.5 to 3.6. I think that would be really great. So, and I think we'll get there in the next couple weeks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So
what does that mean for you, right? The layman person out there looking to just buy a house or refinance. Tell you what it means. It means rates are down. Conventional 30-year fixed, probably looking, I would say, right around mid to high sixes. Right around mid sixes, and if you're looking at a VA or an FHA and the government loans, you're looking high fives, right? High fives. So, things are moving in a positive direction. Happiness, positivity, fireworks.
Yeah, it is moving in a good direction. And like always, we'll just see where it goes and we'll report the facts.
Yeah, there wouldn't possibly be any negative news that could come along with those beautiful rates. I'm positive of it.
Well, we're going to get into just that. Al's a segue master. So we're going to get into we'll take a peek at mortgage applications. Rates are down. Everything's great. Everybody's hooting and hollering. So what's going on with mortgage applications? Well, last week we didn't have a show. Rates mortgage applications were up 35%. Biggest jump in a long, long time. It's great. But now we turn around to this week, and mortgage application activity has dropped to its lowest point since February. It's a roller coaster. As high housing prices, it seems like the high housing prices are dampening the impact of the falling mortgage rates. Yeah. Overall, mortgage applications fell this week by 10%. It's a big drop. Purchase applications were down 5.2%, and the refinance applications decreasing after last week's surge.
Yeah. So, weird. It's very weird. It's very weird. It's, the average rate, like we touched on for a fixed rate mortgage fell to 6.5%, lowest since May of 2023. So rates are improving, right? And because of the expectation of a Fed rate cut, But these high home prices are affecting affordability. So you have all these people that have been waiting on the sidelines, and when are you going to do it? When rates come down, and we've been screaming it from our little soapbox here that you should not wait for the rates to come down. Do it now, because as rates come down, values are going to keep going up. Affordability is not going to go, it's not going to go away. This issue of affordability is not going to change. And that's exactly what we're seeing, right? So rates coming down, and you still have folks that are struggling to afford a home because the values just keep on climbing. So,
and there's a lot of people out there that are like, it's coming, the foreclosures are going to be off the chain, blah blah blah. But there's a lot of data out there that just would dispute that. So I would just, I don't know, check it out, listen to some. I don't know. Doom and gloom is like they say sex sells. I think fear and doom and gloom sells even better. So I think a lot of
absolutely.
Like, it's the end of the world's ending and the economy's crashing and all these things and maybe it's not so pretty, but
maybe more so than ever right now in this election cycle that we're seeing. I mean, there is just, regardless of which side you're on, the end is near. Whoever gets elected, the other side's going to die and they're going to lose all kinds of rights, and so regardless of which side you're on, it's just fear, just spread fear, and which is a terrible tactic, right? Because you only get one shot. You're spinning on a giant freaking globe around a giant ball of gas, right? Just enjoy the ride. Yeah. Smile.
Easier said than done, Al. So the next piece of information and that we're going to get into here is another headline that's just kind of crazy headline that needs to be talked about on this mortgage show. So
talk about it.
I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to get into it here. All right. So this is crazy. A record 60,000 home buyers backed out of deals in July. Crazy.
That's ridiculous. 60,000.
60,000?
In the month of July.
So these are people who went and saw a house, got pre-approved, spent time with a loan officer, got pre-approved, spent time with a real estate agent, went and saw houses, put an offer in on the house. It got accepted, and they had a closing date lined up. Maybe the seller had a house they were moving to. They certainly had plans to move out, and then the buyer backed out, which that's a big number. I haven't dug really into like the why but 60,000 home buyers backed out in July, and it's a record. I don't know if it's the election. I don't know if it's rates dropping.
Yeah.
I don't know why rates dropping would cause people to back out of a home purchase.
Yeah, I don't think it would be that. I have no idea. I'm actually very curious to dive into that a little bit deeper, and maybe that's part of the prep that we should have done prior to our show. But if we're just speculating, I don't know. You got to think that maybe part of that comes down to affordability, right? Not having anything to do with rates, but people kind of, seeing and while being in the process what the out-of-pocket expense is going to be up front, from a down payment and closing cost standpoint, and then what that monthly expense is going to be and that monthly obligation and how that's impacted by the current costs of groceries and everyday living from inflation. And people are like, I don't think we can do it, right? I don't think we can do it. I just think 60,000 is a huge number. And being on our side of things, right, we do a very good job up front of explaining, hey, this is what this is going to look like, right? This is what you're going to have to bring to the table. This is what your out-of-pocket expense is going to be. This is what your monthly expense is going to be. Are you comfortable with that? To make sure that everybody's on the same page. And then you get into processing, you get halfway through this process or all the way through, and you're almost at the finish line, and they're like, I can't do it. Changed my mind. It's extremely frustrating.
The one-offs, if you have cold feet and you want to back out, like, you should do what is in your heart. But for 60,000 people do it, that's a movement. Like, that's something's going on.
That's 15,000 more than Camden Yards, right? I mean, it's a lot of people.
poor Camden Yards. Orioles are having a rough go.
Yeah.
Last week.
That's
so.
right. It's cold last night.
I want to share one last thing with everybody, and we will wrap it up. But the last thing that I want to share is a little. Let's see here. I'll just show it to you and explain it to you. This here is an interesting graph and statistic. So you see here these percentages. This is the percent of 25 to 35-year-olds who are living with their parents. We are at the highest level since 1940. A lot going on back then. Coming off the Great Depression, was World War II in full swing. So last time that this many 25 to 35-year-olds lived at home was 1940. It's a lot. It's a big percentage of the population. It is a huge percent of like the home buying population. Like 25 to 35, some prime home buying years.
Prime time.
And a lot of them are living at home with their parents.
Mom and meatloaf.
Yeah, right. So we can talk about like, it being millennial losers sitting in it, but this is like clearly not it. This happened back in 1942.
Yeah.
I think home ownership is something that all these people would love to do. So I see this as, and the graphic here says it itself, pent up demand. So are these, a lot of these people, I'm assuming, would love to get out of their parents' house if they could.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people here. We talk about the sidelines, people waiting on the sidelines. Well, here it is. A lot of people.
And it's I still think it comes down to, I wouldn't be surprised if that number was that high, because there are that many people that, again, look at what we talked about earlier. Rates are down. A lot of people that were waiting, like, oh, the rates are too high, right? I'm not going to buy my first house. I'm not going to buy a house when rates are at 8% or 7.5%. And we kept saying, right, buy now. This is the best time to buy. It's not going to get any better. And here we are. And I also think that, inflation ties into that, right? When your groceries and your, obviously credit card bills are probably through the roof, and your auto loans extremely expensive. Any personal loans that you have, the rates are very high. So all these things kind of factor into people not being able to afford a home. And before, that starter home was 200 and some grand. It's now that starter home, you're looking at a hell of a lot more money, right? So there's that kind of shift in what the starter home looks like and the affordability of a starter home. And I don't see it getting any better, even though rates are coming back down. I still, I don't know how these folks, and we'd said before, right? Even last year, I think it was the hardest time in history for a first-time home buyer, and it ain't getting any easier, right? And that's what those folks are right there, as first-time home buyers. So,
and man, I'm 35. I'm 36. I mean,
and you look probably 42, 43. I mean, you look weathered, right? You look like if somebody left a leather shoe out in the desert in Arizona for a couple months.
That's misinformation, and I don't appreciate it.
You just rolled right through that.
Yeah,
I appreciate you taking that one on the chin.
Well,
that was my best attempt at Rap Bastard.
I don't get mad when I'm walking down the street and like some homeless schizophrenic guy is like screaming at me. I don't let it bother me. So
yeah.
So
I'm a homeless screaming guy.
Schizophrenic
homeless screaming guy. Touche.
I mean, it's just like I tell my, Julian calls Dominic a baby, and Dominic freaks out. And I go, Dominic, are you a baby? And he goes, no. And I said, well, then don't let it bother you. Al says that I'm a weathered leather shoe in the Arizona desert. Is that true? Is this? You tell me.
That's the fountain of youth right there.
So anyway.
Boyish looks.
We will. I guess we'll just wrap this bad boy up. I don't know. I think I blacked out. I'm not sure if that was a good show or a bad show.
I think we covered everything we needed to. I think that there's a lot of information, a lot of things that were happening there. Especially a lot of things are happening right now very quickly. So it's exciting. You know what I mean? It's exciting to be on the forefront, on the cutting edge, if you will.
One thing I wanted to say when we were talking about when you were talking about people buying and rates were 8 and it was hard. Here's maybe the truth of it is the people that did buy, they were in their house.
Yeah.
And their house is worth more now than when they bought it, and they're refinancing and they're getting the same rate as somebody who's buying today at a higher price.
Right. Exactly. That's the difference, right? And then think about the flexibility that you have as your value goes up in your house. You have this asset that's accumulating value, right? And the equity that you have in there, and the doors that opens up as far as being able to refinance to lower your interest rate, or to use that equity to take care of home improvements. I mean, you're buying a house right now, you're buying it as is, right? You definitely don't have any money to make the improvements, especially if affordability is so bad. These folks that bought last year at a higher rate and have equity can now utilize that equity to make some home improvements, right? Or to take care of some bills, or and any kind of investment opportunities that they're looking into. So there's a lot more flexibility that those folks have, because they took advantage of when affordability, when the rates were higher, but the house prices were a little bit lower, So that's a great point, Ab. Love that.
Let's end it on that. We're at 26 minutes and 47 seconds. I want you to have a great weekend. I hope that
you have a better
listening. If you've made it this far and you've made it to the end, we appreciate you listening. As always.
Well